Today, we're joined by Frederick Kenney, who is the Director of Legal Affairs and External Relations for the IMO, and also a bonus, a retired coastie. Frederick, thanks for taking the time to have a chat with us as part of our end of the year report today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks.
So let's just jump right into it. There's a lot of things that are happening globally. How does the IMO perceive its responsibility to promote safety and security at sea in the face of this complex geopolitical narrative that we're in the middle of?
Okay, well, I think if you look back at the history of the organization, dating back to the time when the IMO convention was adopted in 1948, which means that we're celebrating our 75th anniversary of the convention, the focus has always really been on safety, but that has morphed over the years into emphasis on protection of the marine environment and also addressing maritime security issues in the context of safety. There really are four pillars to the organization. The first is maritime safety. The second is protection of the marine environment. The third is maritime security, which really developed in the early 2000s with the adoption of the ISPS code. And then the fourth is seafarers and the personnel who make the industry go.
So let's talk a little bit about the ISPS code. We're very familiar with that. Like you said, that was a focus with the IMO starting after the September 11th attacks. How effective do you feel the ISPS code has been in addressing the global security issues since its inception?
Well, I think if you look at where we started, because there was really no international security regulatory regime in place for ships and port facilities prior to 2002. The attacks in the United States on September 11th, 2001 were the impetus for the development of the ISPS code, but it was really pretty much starting from zero because the IMO had almost nothing prior to that, with the exception of the conventions on the suppression of unlawful acts against the safety of navigation, the SUA conventions, which were really more criminal law conventions. So the ISPS code really built a security regime out of whole cloth. It was then up to the member states to implement it. And if you look at the implementation, it has been quite effective and continues to develop and improve, although the ISPS code itself has never been amended since it was adopted. So it's been a very stable regime. But then when you look at, for example, the Black Sea Grain Initiative and how that the underpinnings of the Black Sea Grain Initiative is the ISPS code, which was a somewhat novel use of the authorities in the code. First time that some of those authorities been used, but given the success of the initiative with more than 20 million metric tons of grain transported out of Ukraine with no incidents, it seems to be working.
With that, do you anticipate, or are there any current discussions on making any changes or amendments to the ISPS codes, with these different geopolitical threats as they continue to evolve, and now as we see cybersecurity issues becoming bigger within the industry?
Well, I'm not aware of any moves to significantly alter the regime. I think what we're looking at is areas of emphasis within the security framework that's been developed by the IMO. Cyber is certainly one of those. And there, of course, has been action taken. The Facilitation Committee has adopted guidelines to address cybersecurity. Cyber is directly addressed in the ISPS code. Threats when both ships and port facilities are doing their threat assessments, they are required to consider threats to infrastructure and operational matters, including computer operations. I'm almost quoting right out of the regulations themselves. So the risk assessments have to address the threat of cyber under ISPS. In addition, the Maritime Safety Committee has also adopted a resolution requiring that cyber risk be considered as part of the International Safety Management Code, which is the overarching code for companies to ensure that their ships are operating safely. So there's really a two-pronged approach to cyber within the organization in terms of the way it's addressed from a regulatory standpoint.
From the cyber perspective, this continues to be a growing issue across the industry with shipping companies, cruise lines, large yachts, businesses that support all of these operations. We're a couple of years past now the implementation of the IMO 2021 guidance on cyber. Do you anticipate or potentially see any changes to the IMO 2021 coming down the pipeline, similar to what's happened in the U.S., where the Coast Guard has extended cyber to the MTSA facilities?
In terms of the U.S. extending to MTSA facilities, I think that also already exists in the ISPS code. If you look at the requirements for port facilities, which would be MTSA facilities in the U.S., you'll see that the same requirements for the threat assessment and action plans to address the threats already exist in the ISPS code. We don't have an equivalent to the ISM code for port facilities per se, but as I said, it's already addressed by ISPS. In terms of changes, I'm not aware that any are on the table. Of course, any member state could propose amendments, but as I said, it's more on been focused on areas of emphasis within the existing structure.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to add or highlight on security and safety and what the IMO is doing?
Well, I think, security is an evolving issue. Various threats, as various threats come up, the IMO addresses them in an appropriate way, and will continue to do so. Piracy is another example. The focus at one time had been on the Horn of Africa. Now we're looking more at the Gulf of Guinea, although there have been fewer incidents there. But, by having the organization address areas in a focused way as situations come up, I think it has led to successful resolution in a number of instances.
Well, we really appreciate your time for having a chat with us today, and thank you.
Okay, thanks very much.